You are. So I'd like to welcome Yvon Bonenfant, who's going to explain his project, Ululalia. Now, I walked into this room at about 5 to 9 this morning, and sort of like there were about 3 of us in here, and this noise. So be careful. Here you are. Here's Yvon to explain his pitch.
Hi. Hello, my name is Yvon Bonenfant, and I'm going to tell you about Ululalia, and I'm going to start with a story. One of my earliest voice teachers, Frank Baker, one day when I was taking a lesson with him, leaned over toward me. He'd had several strokes and was in a wheelchair, and he leaned over toward me as I was singing and stuck his finger into my open mouth while the sound was coming out, stopped me and said, "Since you were born, they shut you up and they fucked you up. Now you're beautiful, open your mouth and sing." And from that space, I developed an extended voice practice, which sounds something like this. Now, this isn't what it always sounds like, but I think you might agree that these kinds of sounds are sounds that children, who we often stop from making these kinds of sounds, would enjoy playing with, using, and doing things with in a really recreational environment. So, what is the ethos behind Ululalia? We're really looking at making an environment that unshuts mouths and that creates magical worlds of the voice for children, linking these activities with sophisticated technologies and interesting contemporary means of drawing today's kids into a meaningful environment for them that also involves the embodied voice. And what will this actually be like? School group arrives at venue. School group is divided into 2. There are 2 tongue wizards that meet them. One tongue wizard takes half a group away into the first room. That's the speech room, or the magical words room, where the children voyage through languages and cultures to explore phonemes from across different languages, including some rare and disappearing languages. We'll do this together now. We're going to cast a spell. So see if you can copy me in the distinction between these 3 phonemes that we hear as K in English. K, k, k. Try it. K, k, k. Third one is k. Okay, now try this phoneme. Try that one. And now tell me to eat like my Ukrainian grandmother. Eat. Oh, come on, tell me. Eat. And we've got our magic spell. Eat. In the second room, children will be exploring sounds made from texture, sounds that imitate animals, beatboxing, imitations of musical instruments, etc. And this will be an environment that is multimedia, so they're surrounded by projector screens, and they're generating images and sound compositions while they're in this environment. What we currently have is £20,000 of seed funding, particularly for our equipment and development space, a partner who is working with us, The Point in Eastleigh, to develop this piece with children. So we'll be R&Ding with children in this space, working out the best ways for it to work. We have an excellent technical team. We have a crackerjack producer, Ghislaine Granger, who's at the back, kindly running the PowerPoint. We have an international scientific advisory committee, and we have a educational team that's advising us on the embodied education and science education aspects of it. We are planning to have an education pack in the UK available, downloadable from the project website, that's integrated with Key Stage 2 science. What we are looking for are, at the end of the R&D showing, we'd like people to come and experience this work with a view to potentially penciling a tour. So we're looking for people who would like to come and see the end of that R&D process. We're looking for potential co-commissioning partners. We're awaiting in mid-October the results of our co-funding application to the Wellcome Trust. If that application succeeds, we'd like to use co-commissioning to build an iPad and iPhone app that would sit alongside this and allow kids to take this experience home. If we don't get the Wellcome Trust funding, we'd like to use that funding to build this experience in its entirety. We're also looking for people interested in exploring other versions of this experience. We would like to make versions of this experience that, for example, could be experienced without leading actors in a festival lobby, in a tent, in a gallery space. So we're really interested in what else this piece could be. I'm a missionary about opening up the voice, and I'm willing to explore all the different ways we can do that. Next slide. So help us entice these voices of kids and of everybody into sophisticated sound. And just a little bit of a word about why you should trust me to do this, because most of you don't know me. I'm an extended vocalist that makes work across registers, installation, theatrical style performance, other kinds of work. My performance Beacons is touring the UK this October, and there will be dates in Leeds, London, and elsewhere. You can find the dates on the Beacon show. These are some images from what the show looks like. I have experience in bringing large, complex tech and live integration projects together, and we'll just show you a very brief excerpt from the Beacon show's video material with sound. I think this gives you an idea of the passion I bring to the work that I do. So I get really moved by flashing lights. I know that's unusual, but I do. So thank you. Questions? Yeah.
Thank you very, very much. It sounds fascinating.
Thank you. Thank you.
It sounds quite technical. iPads, iPhones, applications.
Sure.
What? Tell me.
Sure. First of all, from the technical point of view, this is a technically complex setup, but the reason we've applied for so much money to get it going is that we want to be completely technically independent, so we can work this piece in all kinds of room spaces and all kinds of places. So we'll be traveling with our array of projectors, et cetera, et cetera. We have a way of working with designing this space that will allow us to stretch fabrics within the space to create worlds that are different in each side of this. In terms of the iPad and iPhone app, this is an idea that's come up because Gislaine and I have been working on a collaborative digital R&D bid, actually, with regards to Beacons. And I think that we can take many of these experiences, particularly because our scientific collaborators are providing us with really interesting vocal tract imaging, so kids will be able to watch phonemes happen in the tongue muscle from the side, and imitate these things in a game-like way on an app that allows them to enjoy the experience at home and take it home to mom and dad. Yeah.
It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And you've obviously got the Wellcome Trust interested as well, which
They're interested. Yeah, they turned down our first application but invited us to reapply. So we're hoping that means that they do that very rarely. So we're hoping that's a good sign.
Yeah. And sort of being self-sufficient, it allows you, I mean, again, like we were talking about rural touring, and
yes.
I do know there are a lot of promoters here from the Rural Touring Network.
Yeah.
And would you think that this would be suitable?
It could totally work because we're making the piece to be independent of technical infrastructure of the venue. We will be able to take this piece into very technically unsophisticated spaces and make it work. It doesn't require blackout. The projectors are bright enough to be used in daylight. So there are lots of ways that we can make the piece work. In its first version, we are making it for 2 separate rooms. Not all venues will have that, but we are interested in exploring developing a 1-room version alongside that. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Sorry, I'm asking you all these questions because it's a technical piece, and I've got to ask questions when it's technical there. Yes.
I just wondered if you'd had experience of this working with children with disabilities and how you thought it could be adapted.
Yes, that's a really interesting question. We've raised this question. Luckily, The Point in Eastleigh, our collaborative partners, have done quite a lot of work, but particularly in the domain of dance and choreography and disability integration. I think that's one of the things we're going to be exploring is, are there limits that people will have in order to be able to participate in this or not? We think that as long as people can phonate or actually just move the tongue in some way, it will be very easy for them to participate in this experience because of how we're designing it to work. But of course, if we had a large group of people with specific mobility needs, we might need to program the piece in a way that allows more arrival and departure time for kids or things like that. So I think it would really depend, and that's one of the things we'll work through in the R&D process. So, yeah.
When is all this going to happen?
Sure. We're planning to begin the first part of the R&D phase, the technical phase, in January of next year. That'll run through the year, and we'll be working with kids in the space to test the work through the summer of 2012. We're hoping to do the R&D showing in October 2012, just before half term. Yeah. Because we'll be working with kids in school groups. Yep. That's right. And we'll be doing it for a number of days, all day, that showing, because this piece right now is imagined for groups of 30, so they can come from a school class, go in the experience for 1 hour, and then another group can arrive. So we can run it up to 6 or 7 hours per day in 1 hour intervals. So
fantastic.
People coming to the R&D will have a large choice of times that they can come and watch the work happen. Yeah.
Any more questions out there at all? Again, you know, a really fantastic opportunity to get involved in a project that is, you know, in the early stages, possibility of a partnership with Welcome that Yvonne will hear about in the autumn. So it's a, there's another question. Yeah.
Thank you, sorry. Is there, what sort of outcome do you get at the end of the show?
I forgot to say this.
Like, is there a narrative or is it experiential?
We're planning to take them through narratives on journeys in each room. So it is experiential. We're planning to take them on journeys, but we're actually planning to, in quotation marks, trick them into creating little concerts. So at the end of each half hour in each of the 2 rooms, they'll be doing a kind of a chorusing exercise, one casting spells and the other another space, and we'll actually be burning a CD for them to take away so that they'll have a record of what they did. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Yvonne.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you're going to be around afterwards if people want to talk to you?
Today, Ghislaine's going to be around today, and you're
fantastic. Thank you.